started regardless?
No, I'm ready.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, somehow look something right this time.
Perfect, thank you.
So we're, yeah. You good?
Dr. Murphy, welcome.
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
I'll introduce a few people in just a second, but if you'll take a minute, I know your daughter is here with you, your precious daughter.
That's
So if
right.
you will introduce her and tell us what her
Thank you so
wonderful
much.
talent is.
It's always a privilege to share your children, right? So I have my daughter, Connor, who is with me tonight. She flew in from Manhattan on Saturday, has completed her college internship. Will graduate from Troy University with a double major in theater and music industry, and is my opera singer and has been blessed by God with a very lovely voice. I'm delighted to have her with me tonight.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
We told her that we needed someone to sing the national anthem because I had laryngitis.
She could do it for you if she just would.
When she told me she hit a high G, I said, I don't know. It's too good.
And Dr. Murphy, let the record state that I was trying to give you an edge on this because no one brought an opera singer with them.
All right.
Okay,
I'll
so
take
just- I was
every
trying to
one
help you here.
upsmanship I can get. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to recognize Mr. Reeves with the City Council, John Lyda in the back, City Council, thank you for coming, our Interim Superintendent, Dr. Reese, and Dr. Murphy. Dr. Hickman, on the front row here, has been to every single one of the finalist interviews. Dr. Hickman's picture is second on the right up there. He was on the original school board in Hoover City Schools.
Accommodations.
So anyway, we are glad to have him
Absolutely.
with us tonight. So
Absolutely. Yes.
can we get you anything?
I'm great.
Okay. If not, we'll go ahead and begin.
Yes.
The 15 questions, I'll say this again, the 15 questions were given to you ahead of time. The board members will take turns asking the questions, and then at the end, there'll be hopefully a 30-minute break, and then we'll move upstairs in the same building to meet and greet that'll start about 7:30.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, let me see. Mr. Cooper, you want to start tonight?
Sure. The obvious Miss America question. We looked at your resume. You had quite a bit of experience in different county school systems and all. So you better than anybody would know. What are your weaknesses and strengths as superintendent?
Well, I'd prefer to spend a lot of time on the strength side, if you don't mind, and I might just hit the weaknesses. No, we certainly all come to the table with, with lots of strengths and weaknesses. I think it's important for me to share with you that I'm a visionary leader. And yet, in saying to you that I'm a visionary leader, I also understand that vision is shared. And so this is not my vision, this would be our vision. This is where we need to go. And understanding that vision is important and being a visionary leader and sharing that vision, that takes me to really being a shared leadership kind of leader. I think we have to share leadership. It's not about just one single person. And while talking about shared leadership, I think it's also critically important that we talk about servant leadership. I would be here to serve you, to serve principals, principals serving those teachers, teachers serving those students. So visionary leader, servant leadership, shared leadership. I also would say to you that I am an experienced administrator, Mr. Cooper, and I'm very delighted for every year that I have had to serve children. It is my absolute passion. So in terms of my experience, I've had an opportunity to teach at the college level. I've taught at 2 different colleges for a total of 8 years. I've also had the opportunity to teach, be a principal at the middle school level, a middle school principal for 9 years. What an awesome experience. Middle school either works for you, it doesn't. It worked for me, 9 years. I have had the opportunity to be a high school principal for 7 years, 2 different schools. I've had the opportunity to be in the central office and to work as an administrative assistant, supporting the superintendent. And then in addition to that, my 4 years as a superintendent. So all of those experiences put together have certainly prepared me for such a time as this evening. And so I am an experienced administrator. I'm also student focused. At the end of the day, my drive, my commitment, my initiative, who Kathy Murphy is about, is students. I want to share with you some of the things that we've done in our school district that I believe are just critical examples to being student-focused. I love the Richard DeFord book, Whatever It Takes. And so I believe that what we've done in my current school district is we've done whatever it has taken to maintain student focus. And we've looked at students across the board in every imaginable way. For example, not all of our students learn in the same way on the same day. Some of them need more time. And so one of the things that we've opted to do is to start an 8th period day. Now, the problem with an 8th period day is that gives an extension of time for our students to learn, but then we have students who may not be able to get home after that 8th period day. The buses have already run at that point. I live in a county that is 1,100 square miles in size, quite a substantial size school district, lots of dirt roads, lots of folks who can't get their children back and forth to school. So in addition to making sure that we provided an 8th period extended learning opportunity for them, we also made available to them transportation. So how do you do that? You look at your budget, you look at your finances, you look at federal funds, how can they be used, any state allocations, any local allocations. Can you write grants? Do you have business and industry that'll lend you a hand? You just find a way. We also understood the importance of making sure that our students came to school ready to learn. That's preschool piece being so important. And so we have added some additional preschool experiences. We've added 3 additional preschools since I've been in the school district. We had 2 preschool programs already in existence. One of them was a tuition-based, and the other was through the Office of School Readiness. And so what we did was to sit with our excellent leaders in Monroe County and talk about making sure that we had this preschool experience across the board for our students. So from that, we've created an additional preschool program, which is, one of them is tuition-based. We were able to write one and get the Office of School Readiness to support us. But again, we found a way to make sure that we got that preschool piece in there. We have looked at the mentoring side of supporting our children, and so we put into place, working with SREB, we joined hands with them and collaborated, and we were able to create a mentoring program so that we could reach out to our students. We've looked at every imaginable way that we could do all the right things possible for our students. So there's a huge student focus in our school district, and it's everything from transporting them. Let me mention this, transportation. As you all well know, we get right at 78 to 79 cents on the dollar for every dollar we spend in transportation. So it doesn't take you long for the transportation piece to really become a crisis for you if you're not careful. Yet we've made sure on the transportation side that we've been able to transport students who were at AP schools. Advanced placement opportunities were available to them. What about for some of our students in some of our other schools who do not yet have advanced placement? They're laying the foundation, they don't have the advanced placement piece yet. So why should where that child goes to school determine whether he or she gets that opportunity? So we put the transportation in piece. During our academic day, we move students around. Our board has been excellent to help us find ways. So what we do is we move students from non-AP schools to AP schools for those who want it. We move students from schools to our local community college, Alabama Southern Community College, so that they can be in a dual enrollment piece. We move our students around so they can go get a fine arts piece. We've just started a fine arts initiative in our school district this year, and I'm so proud of that, and I can't wait to talk to you about that later. But we have found a way to make sure that we do not say to our students, I'm sorry you're at a school and that school doesn't offer AP, or I'm sorry that you can't get to the Career Tech Center, or I'm sorry you can't get to a dual enrollment or to the fine arts program. You find a way. And we've been very successful at that. So I am a student-focused leader. I'm very results-driven. There are 3 things that I can tell you very quickly about Kathy Murphy, and that is, first of all, with no level of arrogance intended whatsoever, I know the work. The other thing that I can tell you is not only do I know the work, I will take initiative. I see people who know what to do, they don't take the initiative to get that done. So the second side of Kathy Murphy is, I will take initiative. The third part is I'm results driven. At the end of the day, what are the results? Not so much what did we intend or what we wanted or threw up a prayer and a Hail Mary and hoped for, but what did we at the end of the day, were we able to accomplish? I think one of my greatest strengths, I would say to you, is communication. I love communicating with people. I love having them communicate with me. I understand it's not about just me expounding. I understand it's about me listening also. But I want to share some things that I've done as it relates to communication. Every week, I have a radio program, WMFC in Monroeville, and I go on the air and I talk to our community about the things that's going on in our school district. And I share things from the academic side of the house to the robotics program to fine arts. I have guests on with me, my principals go on with me, board members go on with me, teachers go on with me, students. We have folks who come and share, but we go back out to that community every Thursday and we talk about what's going on in that school district. I have a weekly article in our local paper, the Monroe Journal, and I share with our community the things that's going on. Since January, I've been writing an article every week to the class of 2015. And those articles are intended to encourage those students, to motivate those students, to help them tap into the realities of life. And I want to tell you a few of those articles that I've written. One of the articles was about, sometimes you just need to move on. And so the title of that article was, If the Horse is Dead, Dismount. I also talk to our students about every now and then you hit rough spots in life. And so what do you do when you hit a rough spot? And the title of that article is, If you hit rock bottom, don't dig. I talk to our students about the danger of being average. That's a disease a lot of folks have, averagitis. We have too much averagitis. And so I don't want our students to be average. And so the title of that article is Pretty Good, It's Pretty Bad. We don't want to be just pretty good. And then I talk to them about staying grounded and not suffering from delusions of grandeur. And the title of that article was Never Rise to Your Level of Incompetence. I can go on and on with you about ways that I've tried to encourage our students, and that whole series of articles is entitled, Class of 2015. I know that many of them do not read our local paper, so I'm trying to find a way that I can put those articles together as my gift out to all of my seniors who will be graduating in May. So I look for those ways to communicate. I and my board go out once a year to every community. We go out to about 5 communities, and we go with no agenda in our hands. And we say to them, what do you need to talk to us about? What do you want to share with us? What are we doing well? And where are we missing the mark? Where are the areas of focus that you need to get us to sit up and pay attention to that we may have missed? So no agenda in hand. I and our board members go out to those communities and talk. Parents, available to parents, available to students, available to the community. And so I think that communication piece is a strength of mine. I'm very positive and proactive. I don't like to sit and wait and react. I like to have a strategy for how we address matters in a proactive manner. I have a record of success. Now let me tell you a few weaknesses, and I really hope to talk myself right out of this, but let's talk about a few of those. I have what I would call a very Puritan work ethic. I work, and I work, and I work. And so the downside of that is I'm really a workaholic. And so sometimes I get a little out of balance. My daughter used to be a great measuring stick for me. We would get home after a long day at work, and I would have been very engaged and very much hands-on, and we'd get home and there'd be all the tasks to do at home and help her with homework and whatever else. And I guess if I was just a little out of sorts, she would say, Mom, I think it's time for you to go jog. That meant I was out of balance and I needed to go take care of me a little bit, and I'd go out and get my run in. And so I am a workaholic. And another weakness that I would share to you is that because I know the work, I expect when we employ other people for them to know the work, or if they're struggling with that, I expect them to at least be receptive to the professional development and the support that we give them. And then once we've supported those individuals and they're still unwilling, then, you know, I have a patience issue there. Or if our people aren't willing to be accountable at the end of the day. Those are the things that I think we have to do. You have to know your work, you have to take initiative, and you have to be accountable. And when we have people who push back on either three of those, I don't want to know the work, I don't understand it, or I want you to think I don't understand it. You know what we do sometimes in education? I'm not going to give that task to that person because they just won't do it well. So what we do is we create a whole cadre of people who get by with doing little to nothing while we work the other folks to death. And I'm not willing to do that. I think it's important that we hold the people accountable.
Well, let me ask you a question. If I'm a prospective employee and I stumble across you and I say, golly, this woman really knows her work. She's very much in the initiative mode, 24/7, workaholic, and very results driven. I'm wondering how I would be treated. Would I be part of a consensus? Would I be part of a team? Would I feel welcome and warm? Or would I be looking over my shoulder to see if somebody's after me?
I would hope that we create a climate and culture of embracing and of engaging, that we make sure that we're listening and open even to those people for whom we maybe disagree, but that we respect that everybody has a voice and everybody's entitled to those opinions, even when those opinions differ than ours. But hopefully would embrace those people and engage those folks, and I believe that I have a history of doing that.
Yeah, the reason I ask that because our goal is, and I think you alluded to it in some of your commentary in your application about the number of nationally board certified teachers and all.
Yes.
We've recruited some great people. We've got some great people. Oftentimes it's a challenge to retain those people because other people would like to have our
That's
employees.
right.
And so I'm just trying to drill down just a little bit and to make sure that you know, there's got to be a little bit of this nurturing involved as well
Absolutely.
as results driven. And some people get intimidated by somebody with a work ethic like you.
Well, please rest assured that it would be my intention, and I believe I have a history of encouraging and supporting and nurturing, but holding people accountable at the end of the day. I think you can have accountability without being hateful or mean or nasty or non-engaging or non-embracing. And so those are my approaches.
I don't think you'll find anybody up here disagreeing with that.
Yes, sir.
No, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Mr. Kelly?
Dr. Murphy, our legislature just passed and the governor signed the charter schools bill. How would you think, or do you think it could affect our district, and how maybe have you thought about it affecting your district? And more recently, it's not on here, our legislature just passed a virtual charter schools bill, so if I could add to that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you know, it's the unknown. The jury's out, and certainly time will tell. But really, with that being said, let me just share a few things as it relates to the charter school bill. First of all, I had an opportunity to go to Montgomery and to meet with Terry Collins, who is a representative, and it was her bill in the House. Mrs. Collins and I had an opportunity to sit down and have some conversation about the charter school bill and some questions that I was representing School Superintendent Association, some questions that we had, some clarifications that we wanted to make. Representative Collins was wonderful, listened to us and embraced our thoughts, and I also had an opportunity to speak in the House Committee and to represent some thoughts and some questions on that bill. Do I think the charter school bill will have a significant impact in Hoover? Here's the way we make sure it doesn't. We get it right, we have lots of options, and we make sure we maintain the standard of excellence. The idea behind the charter schools is somebody's a little dissatisfied with something. They're not pleased with the people or the programs or the processes, or something is rather disconcerting to them. And as long as we're listening to our constituents and listening to their needs and making sure that we have viable options for their children, I would remain optimistic that charter schools would not have a major impact on us in Hoover. However, let me make a contrary point. The contrary point is this: the money follows the child. So when you think of it from that point of view, you could have a situation where your more affluent school districts could be more targeted than a school district like the one I'm currently in, where we're struggling, frankly, economically. Not our fault, it's just the nature of the beast. People are working hard. But in a community like the one I'm currently in, my question to myself is, how many folks might really want to come in with charter school? And again, I'm thinking from a money point of view at this point, versus coming to a more affluent school such as this school. In this school district, per pupil expenditure, you invest about $891 per child. My current school district does not look like that. So if you were to have somebody chasing the money, and I'm certainly not suggesting that charter school folks are doing that, but should you have somebody who is chasing the money, then you might be more interested in a more affluent school district than a less affluent school district. So that's certainly a point that I think we should think about. There is obviously the option for a conversion charter school. I don't think that we would probably be interested in a conversion charter school, not at least where I currently am, because in a conversion charter school situation, I'm basically relinquishing my students to an authorizer. In other words, I'm basically suggesting I believe there's somebody that can do it better than we can, and so we do a conversion charter school, and we allow the authorizer to take control, if you will. There's a governing board, if you will, which would not be the school board, and I don't really see that, at least in my current situation, being an avenue that I'd want to take. You also have Senate Bill 331, which has just started making its way legislative through the process, and this is for internal charter schools. The internal charter school would allow the school district to begin to have charter schools, or to have a charter school, but that charter school would not have to be under an authorizer nor an outside governing board. The school district would be the governing board and the authorizer. Now, that bill has not made its way all the way through this process, but that's another interesting wrinkle to the process of charter schools. So now you have public charter schools, you have public conversion charter schools, and you have the possibility now of public internal charter schools. So those pieces are moving quite a bit all over the page. But sort of the jury's out, time will tell. Hopefully if we're listening to our constituents and we're maintaining a standard of excellence, folks are wanting to keep their children with us and not looking for charter school opportunities.
Madam President, it's obvious you have some connections in Montgomery, which we think is hugely important. That
Yes.
you're connected certainly with this representative, and that's very important to us.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be the District 1 President for the School Superintendents Association, representing the southern part of Alabama. I believe there are 12 districts, and have the great privilege of representing those superintendents, and have had a number of opportunities to speak legislatively, and I like that. I enjoy that. I enjoy being involved on that level. Thank you.
My only claim to fame is the Senate page when I think I was 8.
That works.
That explains it.
Dr. Murphy, how do you envision your role, your relationship with our city leaders?
Well, let me first of all tell you about my relationship currently with city leaders, which I think there's some transferability here for you. So in my current school district, I'm very involved in our community and very involved with our city leaders. I am a member of the Education Foundation. I'm on the board. I'm involved with HIPPY. I'm involved, I attend city council meetings and speak to the education issues. We have an education committee, Monroeville Education Committee. I am on the board of directors for United Way, the co-chair for the United Way program. Lots of hands-on out there in the community and engaging and collaborating with community leaders. I am very excited about opportunities to work here in Hoover, should I be blessed with this opportunity. Working with our mayor, Gary Ivey, working with the Education Foundation folks, I believe that's Steve McClinton, working with our Chamber of Commerce, working with our police department. All of those entities, we all should be holding hands. We should all be talking and engaged and collaborating and sharing ideas and doing everything that we can that's in the best interest of this great city, but certainly everything that we can to support and nurture our children at the same time. So I would see a very hands-on, as I currently have in my school district, obviously a very open. Would love to go to city council meetings. I'd love to sit down with all those individuals and have some conversations and see what their thoughts are. Hands-on, very engaged.
Thank you. Mr. Murphy?
Prior to me asking this question, I'm always fascinated about quotes on signature pages of emails, so I have to ask you about your
Yes.
state, Take the Stairs.
Yes. Roy Vaden wrote a great book entitled Take the Stairs. And it's a great little book of encouragement and motivation. And the basic premise of that is this. Most folks want to find an easy way to get it done. And very infrequently is there an easy way to get it done. Most folks want to get on the elevator and get the quick fix rather than getting in the trenches and getting the work done. So the idea is that most successful folks aren't looking for the easy way outs, aren't looking for the elevator, aren't looking for the quick fix and the quick way to the top. They're perfectly prepared and willing to take the stairs, get the work done, and get it right. Great little book. Roy Vaden, Take the Stairs. We actually did a book study in our school district. Our principals did a book study on that particular book. And quite a great little book. I would encourage your reading of that.
I think Mr. Cooper mentioned earlier about we have 17 schools, very dynamic principal. They know their building, they know the kids, they know the parents, they know the siblings that came through there. Very passionate, and sometimes I don't know if I use the word confrontation, but disagreements can come about. So in the same token, on question 9, name and describe a major decision that you or your staff disagreed upon, but a solution was found.
You know, interesting, of the 15 questions, that one was more complex for me. That's not to suggest that we have not in my school district disagreed. But what we have always done in my school district is we have agreed to disagree respectfully. And that there are those occasions where you just simply still leave the table with some differing opinions, and that's okay. You know, otherwise you need a committee of one, and you don't need everybody else, and we need everybody else, and we need to collaborate. There have been several issues for which I could address, and so I'm just going to share a couple with you, if I may. One, the State Department of Education supports us with reading coaches. However, we do not have enough support to have reading coaches in all of our schools. And so we had our reading coaches assigned to some schools all day, every week, 180 days. And then we had some schools that had no one there to support the reading side of the house. And that was probably best for the adults in the organization because they were in a school and they were comfortable in that school. And they had gotten used to that principal and those students, and that was working for them. But it really was not in the best interest of all of our students because we had schools that did not have a reading coach. So we came to the table with our principals and we talked about that. And the principals that didn't have a reading coach said, hey, you know, what about me? I need some support too. We brought the reading coaches to the table and we shared with them why we needed to make sure that we had them at all locations. And at the end of the day, what we did was to say to our reading coaches, we're going to need you to split time. We can't hire enough reading coaches to put in all 7 of our schools. But we can rearrange your day and work with you in such a way that you can help us support all the schools. Now, at the end of the day, is a better remedy to have a reading coach at every school? Sure. But is it a good remedy to have some schools supported and others with no support? Absolutely not. And so, you know, we had to do some talking. I can't tell you that when we left that table that we had 100% consensus because, again, still, you know, there's a selfish side to all of us. This is best for me. This is best for me not to have to move from my school. And so our reading coaches was one example of that. We also have spent a great deal of time in our school district looking at our salary schedules. The state offers up a minimum salary schedule, and for the most part, that's where our school district is. So what we wanted to do is to find some ways to try to support our people more, to increase our salary schedules more. We've put together committees to look at this, and you might imagine how some of those conversations went. You know, if you're supporting one subgroup like the secretaries, then the custodians want to know, why are you doing for the secretaries but you're not doing for me? How do you do for everybody in a community that is struggling economically? And so we did some basic things, which I can't tell you have fixed the problem, but I can tell you at least we're starting. And so some of the things that we did is we mutually agreed, for example, with counselors, that all of our counselors needed a minimum of a 10-month schedule. We have folks needing transcripts, we have people needing to enroll, all kinds of things happen during the summer. How in the world can you have counselors for just 9 months? So we were able to have a mutual agreement that counselors needed to be at least on a 10-month. We were able to mutually agree that our custodians needed to be in our buildings to strip, seal, wax those floors, and do all those other critical and important things that we do. We were able to agree that our assistant principals should be on not less than a minimum of a 10-month salary schedule. We agreed that all of our principals, and this actually happened prior to this committee, but we actually have now all of our principals on a 12-month contract. We had a couple of principals that weren't on 12-month contract. So then we come to the principal side of it. You know, when you have these kind of conversations, it's tough because when you look at the salary schedules, where do you start? Do you support those people who are on the lower end of that continuum? Do you support people such as custodians and CMP and some of those folks whose salaries are just atrocious? Or do you try to support your leadership piece? Because as leadership goes, so goes the school district. Well, where do you start? And so we've had those conversations in our school district. What we did for our principals was just to do an across-the-board $2,400 pay increase for all of them. Did it fix everything? Absolutely not. Is it the final remedy? I certainly hope not. But was it an opportunity for us to come to the table about something that really had been a big rub for a lot of folks for a long time? Yes, we may have only put a Band-Aid on it, but at least the hemorrhage has stopped. So, you know, you just find ways. Most of the problem solving is going to be communication. You know, good marriages break up because folks won't communicate. Churches split up because folks won't communicate. School districts have problems because folks won't communicate. So what I've found is, for the most part, with any of these areas where we really are disagreeing, we come to the table. And I'm very big to get all the stakeholders to the table. I'm not particularly interested in talking to a party, maybe initially, and then B party, but I'm interested in bringing people to the table, and let's have honest conversation. I tell our principals, one way that you change your school is one courageous conversation at a time. Some of those conversations are tough. They're not easy. And they do need to be nurturing and supported, but they have to be courageous conversations.
Dr. Murphy, you mentioned sharing funding. I'm assuming you're a Title I district.
Yes, we are.
In Hoover, we have Title I targeted funds. So how would you see the transition from what you're doing with a Title I system as opposed to targeted funds?
Yes. So your funds are designed to just specifically target those schools where you have high poverty pieces. Unlike our school district, where across the board, we are a school system that has all schools under the Title I funding piece. I don't see that being a complex transition whatsoever. We know those schools that have been targeted. We know those schools that need support. We understand the federal funding and how that funding can and cannot be used. And we allow and we align our use of those funds to support those targeted students. It's a little easier, honestly, if you're a school-wide, because that means everybody gets to come to this computer or to use those resources or those materials. In a targeted school, it's a little bit different. You have a cadre of students who are entitled to use certain pieces of your resources or equipment. So it's a little different. I can tell you many years ago when I was the principal at Greenville Middle School, we actually were a targeted school. So I have had the experience of working in a targeted situation versus a district with school-wide federal funding. But I'm very comfortable that that could be done well. Yes, sir. Mr. Presley?
Why are you interested in leading the Hoover City Schools?
There are 3 reasons that I'm interested in Hoover City Schools. First of all, there's an absolute standard of excellence in this school district that I find just particularly exciting. And so when you think about that standard of excellence, let me tell you all the different pieces that I see that's excellent. First of all, I've taken the time to study your students' data. I've looked at data points, I've looked at the metrics, I've looked at growth. I was very interested in your strategic plan, studied over your scorecards, your balanced scorecards to look at where your students are. Now, just as is true of any school district in this nation, you aren't walking on water, but you're a school district that is excellent as far as your students' performance. Room to grow, absolutely. But you're doing some things very well there. Now remember, excellent doesn't mean perfect, so we can be excellent and still have opportunity to grow. So student data is good, and room to grow, and a focus could be there on that. You also have teachers of excellence. Now how do I know that? Well, first of all, I know that you have more National Board Certified teachers in this school district, 15%, than any other school district in the state. Kudos to you. That's awesome. I also know that you have more Teachers of the Year in this school district than any other school district in the state. And I picked up my Alabama Education News on Friday, pulled it up electronically, and there sat on the front of the page one of our Hoover teachers from Trace Crossings, Miss Wiggins, who's a finalist, and I'm rooting for her. So maybe another addition to be added to that group of Teachers of the Year from Hoover City Schools. So you definitely have teachers who are doing the right thing, because I also see the data that tells me that. Then you have parents who are engaged. You have parents who are interested in the school district, and they're interested in us getting it right. You also have a community that's exceptional. I thought it was quite exciting to see that Hoover is one of the 30 best places, named one of the 30 best places to live in this country. How exciting is that? And so I see that you have a community that is about excellence. We have a school district that is about excellence. So that whole standard of excellence is exciting to me. The second thing that would make me want to come your way is that because there is a standard of excellence, there's a challenge. The challenge is not that you want to sustain what you have, or not just that you want to maintain what you have, but you're looking to get better. That's a challenge. It's much easier to bring school districts up who may be struggling and raise them than it is to come into a school district where things are looking pretty doggone good and you got to make them even better. So when I looked at your New South research, I saw that for the most part your community sees this as a good school district. You were given a B. Matter of fact, I believe that score was an 84. So you're seen as a good school district. But I have a thought, and it comes from Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. If you're good, can we be great? And if we're great, can we be better? And I always think of the thought of water being hot at 211 degrees. Water boils at 212 degrees. It's that one more degree that makes that critical difference between water being hot and water boiling. What happens when water boils? You create steam. And what happens when you create steam? The old steam engine. You start to get a little momentum. Hey, there's nothing more powerful than momentum. I don't care how little it might be. You get a little momentum going. And that's good stuff. That's powerful stuff. So you create that momentum, and from that momentum you get that forward movement and you get progress. The third thing that's really exciting to me is the concept of growth. And I'm going to be honest, this is very selfish. Not just about the school district's growth, but about my growth. I was quite interested to see that your vision is about lifelong learners. I was also interested that your motto is learning for life. And that really is where I took my third reason for wanting to come here, because I'm convinced beyond all doubt that this school district can help me grow. You see, I want to grow, and I want to develop, and I want to evolve, and I want to morph, and I want to get it right, and I want more tools, and I want to bring more to the table. And how do you do that? It's kind of like way back when I played tennis. If I wanted to be a better tennis player, I didn't play down. I played up. And so I'm completely convinced that the school district has so much to offer that indeed it would be very helpful to me to support the growth of the school district, but also my lifelong desire to continue my learning in the process. So at the end of this, I think you're a hot district, but I think we can create some more steam. I think we can roll.
Let me ask you a quick question. You talked about looking over our data and all, and I noticed in your advanced ed executive summary from December, you guys have a 70% goal of all students meeting or exceeding ACT Expire assessments. What do you see as the upper possibility for us? Well, this kind of leads to my question on all this sort of way to ask it.
You know, the obvious is that I don't want my kid left behind, so nobody else wants theirs left behind, right? So the magical number, the desired end result, is 100%. So how do you put some reality behind that? Is that I think we really need to look at our data. We need to support all children. Obviously, you all are in a very different position academically than the current school district that I'm in. And I think that you are moving in the right direction, and I think you have the potential to be pushing in those 90s. And wouldn't it be wonderful if some school district hit that 100%?
It's afraid to have a follow-up question. Dr. Murphy, you mentioned your third point was growth.
Yes, sir.
You'll be coming from a district of 3,700 students to one of 14,000. That's a pretty good growth jump right there.
Yes, it is.
How would you plan on working through that?
Well, I think good leadership is good leadership. So, you know, if you're in a small school district or a large school district, if you're in an affluent school district or you're in a less affluent school district, I think the principles of leadership are intact. And so I would believe that regardless of the differential in size of those school districts, that would not impede our ability to lead the school district nor to progress the school district.
Thank you.
Mr. Cooper?
Well, as a follow-on to the last question, number 13, in your opinion, having done quite a bit of research on the district, what are the top 3 challenges you see for Hoover? I know everybody senses that we're good, we're not great, there's always upside potential. There's got to be 3 things that you've had time to prepare to jump out at you.
Yes. I have spent a great deal of time researching Hoover and trying to understand Hoover so that I could come to the table and answer such questions as that. I think there are 3 obvious, and I think the 3 obvious are also very evident when you all did some research of yourselves. First of all, that is academic achievement. We come to school for 180 days or the equivalent thereof, 1,080 hours, whatever way that's designed in our school district, but we come to school for 180 days for that academic side of the house. We can't be comfortable. We can't be complacent. We have to understand that every instructional day is a critical instructional day. Every instructional period is a critical instructional period, and every minute in that classroom is critically important. We need to make sure that teaching and learning is happening. We need to make sure that we're facilitating learning. I make it a practice of mine, and I realize, again, we're talking about a school district size difference here, and this will be evident as I make this point. But in my current school district, before I take a recommendation to the board, I spend a few minutes with that candidate. I need to look at them. I just need to hear them talk to me a minute. I need to ask a few questions. And then I always tell them this. So a teacher comes into my office and they're a candidate for a position and I'm getting ready to go to the board with that recommendation. I say to that teacher, prospective teacher, this: we're not hiring you to teach. And then I pause, because the obvious is, well, what in the world are you hiring me to do? And then I say to them, what we're hiring you to do is to ensure learning. You see, those are 2 different conversations. I could stand up and teach all day. I could deliver to you a fabulous lesson. But if I'm not engaging you, if I'm not making you an active participant in that process, if I'm not using project-based learning or some way getting you involved in this process, I may be delivering an excellent lesson and pat myself on the back as a teacher. But we're really not hiring people at the end of the day to teach. We're really hiring folks to ensure that our children are learning and that we're facilitating that learning. So that academic side is there. I believe that's a challenge for every school district in this nation, for that matter, so you're not alone. No, you're not alone on any of these. Obviously, the whole idea of budget and finance. I mentioned this to you earlier. For every dollar that you spend on transportation, you're only getting 78 to 79 cents back from the State Department of Education. That's legislative stuff. So also you realize that you're getting no professional development money. In our case, we are a Title II school, a Title I school, and we get the Title II funds to support our professional development. Without that, we would be in a world of hurt. Our Title II supports our professional development side. And so when you realize that library enhancement money's not there, professional development money's not there, transportation, you're not fully funded, which, by the way, in the foundation program, transportation was to be fully funded in the state, but it's not. So you have this whole budget issue that we all are going to have to monitor and manage and keep our hands on in order for us to be able to do the things that we need to do for our students while maintaining that budget piece. And then the third, and there's a whole lot that could go under this category, and I'm going to call it culture and climate. I think your third challenge is that of culture and climate. Again, you're not unique in this because I think many school districts struggle with culture and climate. So what would I put there? Well, we want to create a climate of trust, a climate of transparency, a climate of rapport, a climate of listening, a climate of being willing to engage all people who want to come to the table with us. I think when we think about culture and climate, it's also what's going on in that teacher's classroom. Is that class too large? Is that school too big? Are there adequate resources for that teacher? So culture and climate is that teacher side. How do our parents feel about it? Do our parents, do we talk about parent engagement, but when a parent comes to meet with a teacher, we're hateful and mean? Or do we really mean we want them to be engaged? Do we give mixed messages when our parents want to come to the table? So that whole culture and climate of how we treat each other, how we interact with each other, the transparency, the rapport, being people of integrity, coming to the table with honesty, those are all critical pieces to culture and climate. There's some ways we can measure that. There are pride surveys. Advanced Ed, Sachs has some culture and climate surveys. There are a number that you can buy out on the market. School districts often create their own. But I think every now and then we need to push pause and we need to see what is the culture and climate like in our school districts.
You know, you mentioned early on here in the academic achievement portion of it, and the example you used about, say, there's a teacher wanting a particular position, you call them in to talk to them face-to-face. One of the things that we do here, right or wrong, good or bad, to what extent or the other, I'm not totally sure of, but site-based management, pretty much run the schools, superintendent runs the district, that kind of thing. Some principals, I would say, golly, Dr. Murphy's micromanaging. I have done all this stuff. I've talked to this candidate.
Yes.
This is my recommendation. How do you get past that intimidation piece?
Thank you. That's a great question. I am absolutely a proponent of site-based management. I had the privilege of being a part of a group of folks from Sanford. Dr. Ruth Ash, Dr. Maurice Pearsall, and I, many years ago, had some opportunities to go around and talk about site-based management. You know, site-based management in some school districts means you get to pick the color of the curtains in your classroom. After that, somebody else is telling you what to do. Mr. Cooper, I think that's a great question because I believe in site-based management. We have hired our principals for a purpose. But even in giving that, in my school district, currently, and perhaps even moving forward, if the recommendation is coming from me, then I have some skin in that too. And just taking a few minutes of time with that person, just to hear them, let them share a little bit with me, but also to be very transparent about when you come on board with this. Here's some things I want you to know and think about. I don't use that as a, no, Mr. Principal, I'm not accepting that, or Ms. Principal, I'm not accepting. It's more of an engagement opportunity and an opportunity for me to know when I take that recommendation to the board that I know who I'm not just taking a name.
Well, I understand, and I'm not saying skin in the game is not important, because we have skin in the game too. We either approve it or don't approve it. We don't know, we don't know. All I'm saying is sometimes perception overrules.
Yes. Well, please let me just be perfectly clear. I truly believe in site-based management. The principals are the principals, and the superintendent role is to support them, and I'm fully 100% behind that.
I would say though, just knowing you for a few minutes, it's site-based management, but with accountability.
Absolutely. That was, I wished I'd have said that. There you go. That's what I was trying to
Probably
say.
not somewhere, I'm sure.
It's here somewhere. Thank you. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Kelly?
Dr. Murphy, we're very blessed, excuse my cough, we're very blessed with our students, our facilities, and our administrators, educators. That being said, I've got a deck of cards on my desk right now. We all try to attend all the numerous awards, acknowledgments our children get. It's easy to say we've won a couple of state championships in athletics, but the fact that our band at one of our high schools is running out of space, we're challenged in a lot of areas. How would you make sure that not just the high-profile athletics, but all our programs get the attention?
Well, absolutely. You know, as it relates to that whole idea of academics, athletics, fine arts, extracurricular, all of those are critically important. Obviously, I think we always make the first thing first, so I'm going to say that the academic side of the house obviously trumps. But I had the great pleasure, let me speak athletically first. I want to speak fine arts and to some other pieces. I had the privilege of hiring someone from Spain Park who was an assistant football coach many years ago, and hired him as the football coach in the school that I was at that particular time. And that young man turned that football program around, but while he was turning it around, he turned that school around in some very significant ways. And I became an absolute convert at that moment in time about how critically important athletics really is in the culture and the climate side of the house. Now, I respected athletics. I played basketball in high school, all 5'1" of me. I was not the forward. I ran track. I was an athlete. I love sports to this day. But that young man taught me something very important about how critically important athletics really is to a community and to a school, to camaraderie, esprit de corps. Is big. And so I'm all in, very supportive of the athletic side of the house. It has its place. Academics has the first spot. The fine arts piece. I have some evidence sitting with me today in the room that I'm gung-ho fine arts. And so we have to find all the ways that we can to support that band that's about to be crowded out of its room. And that whether it's performing arts or whether it's visual arts, because my child is an artist, I realize the importance of the arts in the life of children. I was not that kid. I was the athletic kid. And but I get it like never before, perhaps taught to me best by my daughter, who gets up for opera, who goes to bed for opera, and can tell you every opera, I guess, that's ever been written and who sang it, and I can't say most of those words as it relates to some of that German, French, Italian, and all that stuff. But I also was very blessed this year to be acknowledged by the Alabama Educators Association with the Distinguished Service Award for individuals outside the profession of art. And so art is important. And I have demonstrated that in my current school district. We've just started a fine arts initiative. We had 9 of our students in year 1 who went to the Trumbauer competition, which is a state competition, and placed in year 1. And we started the fine arts piece because we said to our students, what do you want? What are you interested in us adding here at our school that would help you find your niche, that would engage you in learning, that might keep you from dropping out of school? And it was overwhelmingly the arts. And so our board made that commitment. Our principals helped us find the way to get those units in, and we've started that fine arts piece. What we know from all the research out there is that our students have to have a niche. They need to belong. If we want to keep our students in school, if we want to keep our students happy at school, then they need to be in some club, some organization, some athletic team, arts, band, something, so that they have that place that they can connect to, and those individuals who have that shared love of some area of their interest.
Here's an interesting side note. Within the next probably 3 years of current projections, we will have the largest marching band in the state. Not high school marching band, the largest marching band in the state. It's incredible the way the band program is growing. That's what Wayne, Craig alluded to.
Very great. Great.
$1 million band.
The $1 million band.
$1 million plus band.
Dr. Murphy, as our new superintendent and leader of our great school district, how would you initially approach your new position?
Let me tell you how I wouldn't approach it. I would not approach it as I'm the anointed one, the all-knowing, and I have arrived. I have solutions and I have the answers. Y'all sit down and listen. That is not how I would approach this position. I think it's critically important when you come into a school district that you not just initially take the time, but continue to take the time to know the people, to make sure that you are engaged with the community. We've had some conversation about that. That you're building those relationships, and the way you build relationships is you spend time with people. I would see it critically important for the superintendent to spend time with you as individual board members. I would see that it's important for the superintendent to spend time with principals, with lead teachers, with building leadership teams, in grade level meetings, in departmental meetings, to walk halls, to visit schools, to look at athletic arenas. And so building those relationships, part of that is the visibility side of it. Superintendent has to be visible, has to be accessible. If you want to be credible, you got to be visible and accessible. And so building those relationships, which frankly means boots on the field, to get out there and to support. And then I think the other piece is that you build on the existing strong foundation that's already here. It will be important for me to meet and to greet. It'll be important for me to listen and see. It'll be important for me to study and to learn. Let me tell you the things I need to study and learn. Policy and procedures, student handbooks, technology plans, safety plans, budgets, continuous improvement plans, a plethora, a whole list of things that I need to study and to learn. But critically important is just being out with those, being out with principals, being engaged with teachers. I would think it'd be very important to begin a superintendent's advisory council. I did this in my current school district, and that was so important to have a superintendent advisory council where schools selected representatives, where the community sent representatives, where student leaders came to the table with me, where parents were represented. So in our Superintendent's Advisory Council, we just brought all those folks together, and we probably had 25 or 30 people, which in some ways was a bit large, but they had a voice. And we listened to them, and I think it was probably one of the best things I did when I went into that school district was to say, I need a council. I don't know everything. Matter of fact, I don't even know all the questions yet, so I certainly don't have all the answers yet. But I think together we can ask the critical questions, and together we can come up with those solutions.
Dr. Murphy, you made mention of several different topics of discussion, being data-driven, communication, we not I, boots on the field. But a lot of times, federal and state testing kind of dictates what a system is, regardless of what's going on internally.
Right.
in saying that, and you answered a lot of the questions with, enjoyed talking, hearing you talk about communication, radio, entire 9 yards, the PR portion of it. What other internal indicators can you gauge student success, or even teacher success?
Yes. Well, I think that there are so many opportunities for us to look at student success. In our current school district, we were blessed last April to become SACS district-wide, Advanced Ed accredited district-wide. And one of the questions that was posed to us, Mr. Murphy, when the committee sat and met with us was, so how can you know and how can you ensure that students, regardless of which of the 7 schools they attend in your school district, are indeed meeting the standards and being successful? Well, we chased rabbits in left field until they were finally tired of us chasing rabbits in left field and said, you need to have some sort of data point, some sort of metric, some sort of way of determining that indeed the standards are being taught, the standards are being met, and regardless of which of these communities in your school district a child lives in, that those children are getting those standards. And so from the Advanced Ed piece, we started common assessments. And at the end of every 9 weeks, we give common assessments, a formative assessment, to inform us how are our students doing. And those assessments are based on the standards that should have been taught from our pacing guides. And it gives us an opportunity to determine whether those standards are being met or not. It gives us an opportunity to regroup if we need to, reteach if we need to, whatever we need to do. So we have used Global Scholar to support us with our common assessments. We look at advanced placement. How many of our students have qualifying scores? Not just how many students are taking advanced placement, but how many students are actually being successful with qualifying scores. We also look at our career tech credentials. Great career tech program in our school district. We have a number of areas where our students can earn credentials, and we think that's a measure. We have an opportunity for our students in career tech to be able to be credentialed in business marketing and agri-science. In 2 health areas, they can be credentialed in emergency response and also in a certified nursing assistant position. We have an industrial maintenance certification that our students can earn. We have a cosmetology credential that our students can learn. So we see that as a measure of our students and their success. We even look at RTI. How are our students doing on the RTI process? So when you look at RTI, you've got that universal piece where we hope most of our students are able to understand the concepts being taught to them. But we understand that that's not true for all of our students. And in the RTI process, we have those students who have to be targeted. And then we have those students where we really need to do some intensive intervention. And so we look at those programs to see how successful are we being when we're working with children at the Tier 2 level, where we're targeting them. How successful are we being once that child moves to that Tier 3 and we're providing that intensive? We also look at college acceptance. Are our students being accepted into college? We always are excited about the amount of scholarship monies that come to our children. Please understand, as is true in other school districts, but in our school district in particular, some of our children would never go to college if some scholarship did not come their way. And so that is an important measure for us. We're interested in our students being able to go to college and not have to take remediation when they get there. That's an important measure to us. Do we have any national merit students? That's important to us. We even look at discipline attendance and see what kind of impact that has on our students and their learning. And are we decreasing discipline in our school district? And if we're decreasing discipline, is that increasing us academically? What does attendance look like? You know, we certainly can't teach children if they're at home. And so we certainly are concerned about truancy. So we just have a whole cluster of things in addition to the state assessments that we study and review that gives us some idea as to the student success.
Let me ask a little follow-on question here if I can. You know, we talked about site-based management and principals in charge of schools, teachers in charge of the classroom, we're all accountable to the public. But we're also responsible, I guess this was in the advanced ed, or maybe it's in your letter to the district, but holding parents responsible for discipline and kind of really managing their kids. You alluded to discipline right there, and in your letter, you talked about how we cannot let discipline problems distract from the learning of other children. In other words, disruption in the classroom,
That's right.
classic case. How do you go at that?
Well, the thing that we say to our students is that we can't allow your conduct and your behavior to interfere or impede with other students' learning. Public Law 94-142 states that parents not only are responsible for ensuring that their children attend school, but that law also outlines the parent's responsibility in terms of their child's conduct when they get to school. So there is some parental responsibility there. And that may mean that we need to offer some parenting classes to support parents, because I've literally sat in office with parents when they've said to me, good luck, do the best you can. I can't get there with them. Parents who just almost feel like they've relinquished all rights to their children. So we try to work with parents. Parent engagement is important. Parenting classes are important. How do we support parents to support their children? There are certainly those occasions where we need to remove a child from the regular school setting for the purpose of other children's learning without forgetting that that child is still entitled to free public education. And so you may do that through some alternative center, which we have in our school district, where we place students whose conduct does not measure up to that which we expect, and those students are then placed in our alternative learning center, and then we afford them and offer them everything we can to make sure that they're successful. You can't teach in a class where there's no order, where there's no discipline, and what I learned very early in my career is that if I was willing to relinquish the classroom management to children, they were happy to take that. And it just didn't work as far as being conducive to learning.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Presley?
Dr. Murphy, you had mentioned earlier 2 of the 3 challenges for our district was academic achievement and budget and finance. What would your plan be to keep our standards and our academic achievement high while at the same time balancing a budget?
Well, that's tough for all school districts, I think, and is an excellent question. First of all, if I might share kudos to you, in looking at the budget for Hoover City Schools, 68.5% of your budget is committed to instructional services and support. And so that's a statement or a percentage that would say to me that your budget is about students. You are student budget focused. When looking at the budgets in the school district, you are the second lowest in the state in terms of the money that you put into the administrative side of it. Your money is placed on students, instructional support, and also instructional services. I think it's also to you a compliment that you're ranked 7th in the state in terms of per pupil expenditures. You're just under $11,000 committed to each child in the school district. That's when you take all of your revenue sources, you're right at $11,000. So you're doing some things quite well as it relates to the budget, and so compliments to you as a board. But there are pieces that we'll have to remain focused on. First of all, it's pretty fundamental finance. We're going to have to analyze our budgets. We're going to have to look at all of the pieces that are in that budget, from CMP to transportation to salaries to benefits. All of those are conversations for study and analysis. You also have the other current expense, the OCE side of the house, that really is only one of 2 sources where you can flex money to accomplish the things as the school district and as the school board that you want to. Your other current expense money can be flexed in that manner, and if you need to, you can use your capital outlay money and flex it in that way. Beyond that, you've lost a lot of flexibility as far as money gets fairly well earmarked. So I think there needs to be some analysis of the other current expense side of the house. When I looked at the budget for Hoover, there's about $10.8 million that comes out of OCE for salary and benefits, and another $9 million that comes out of your budget OCE for purchase services. Those all are things that you'll want to continue to look at and study and monitor and manage. I'll tell you one thing that is unique that I can bring to the table to you. I say unique, certainly other people can, but I can bring this to you. I have been in a school district where we've done more with less. In a school district where we found a way to get things done. And so I have been able to set high standards in my current school district, even though it's a high poverty community. And, you know, I'm going to sound like a simpleton, but I really do think it's fairly simple as it relates to what is the relationship between money, finances, budgets, and the school district and its standards. The first thing is you're going to meet your obligations. You have to. You got to pay the power bill. You got to keep the lights on. You got to keep the lawns cut. Whatever. You're going to meet your obligations, and then you're going to drive the rest of your budget from your strategic plan. What are the goals of your strategic plan, and how do we align the expenditures of the school district in a manner that allows us to meet that strategic plan and those goals? Sometimes in our strategic plans we have more goals than we can afford. Sometimes it's true. And so even in a strategic plan, you sometimes have to prioritize. What are the most critical pieces that we want to make sure we accomplish this year? Maybe next year we have a little different focus. So as simple as it sounds, you're going to meet your obligations, and then you're going to align your budget and your monies to your strategic plan. And then you may be able to get a few things you want. But at the end of the day, you're not going to get all you want. But I think it almost comes down to something as less complex as just that.
Mr. Cooper?
Somewhat tagging on those comments about the budget, we have elected over the past several years to make technology a centerpiece of the district as a teaching and learning multiplier. Mm-hmm. And for most people who don't stop and think about this, technology, we're evolving technology to potentially require less teacher use, to differentiate instruction, to create virtual classrooms so you don't have to have physical structure for every student all the time, to expand learning opportunities, curriculum, and even career tech opportunity. So with that in mind, I know you guys, in your event said, executive summary indicated you got this iPad one initiative going, which is great. All the teachers and administrators got new iPads, that's great. How do you feel about technology as a learning and multiplier, and what experiences beyond those two things have you had in ensuring that technology is embraced in the classroom and used in the classroom as both a teaching and learning multiplier?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm particularly interested in the Engaged Learner initiative that you all have, ELI, which is your 24/7 opportunity for students to stay engaged in their learning, and I'm excited to learn a little bit more about that. When it comes to technology, we have such a diversity. You know, we talk about students being along the continuum from the struggling learners and reluctant learners to the gifted learners. And we find ourselves in the school district sometimes having almost that same span of teachers as it relates to their use of technology, interest in technology, and integration of technology. So in our school districts, we have those who are technophobic, you know, a little fear of the whole thing. We have those technology struggling folks, the technology reluctant folks. We have the, you know, the technology newbies. We have the technology savvy. So you've got that whole group of people. And so the approach, I think, has to be this, and that is we differentiate professional development for those individuals because they're at a different place. They have a different learning curve. You know, it's kind of like when we talk about strategic teaching. When we talk about strategic teaching, we talk about taking people where they are and working with them and supporting them, giving it to them in large pieces, smaller pieces, chunking the information to our students. Well, sometimes we have to do that with our teachers in professional development. We offer them a chunk of technology and work with them and help them get that piece and show them how to integrate that in the classroom. By the way, it's not technology, it's the integration of that technology. The technology doesn't change the content. The technology changes the delivery. And so we need to work with our students, we need to work with our teachers to help them become comfortable with that. So I think it's differentiated professional development. We do some chunking, we do some pair and share. You take that teacher that's particularly savvy with technology and have them pair up with that teacher that's struggling with that process and have them learn from each other and support each other. A communal project might be appropriate as we're working with our teachers, to have them work with other teachers and work on a project that could be used in the classroom to support instruction. We actually, in our school district, we added a technology specialist. And the purpose of that technology specialist is to go out and to support the use of technology and help those teachers with that side of the house. We will have a leadership academy in our school district this summer for our principals and for all other instructional persons who want to come, assistant principals or those with certificates in administration. And part of that is going to be about technology. So for our leaders, we want to support them. Here's what we understand at the end of the day. At the end of the day, the idea of digital delivery is a non-negotiable. We need to have digital delivery literacy among our teachers. And so we support them, we offer them the PD, we take them wherever they are, we offer differentiated support, whatever ways we need to do that. But at the end of the day, that is a tremendous tool that's not going away. And we want to encourage our teachers to become comfortable and to embrace that. In our particular school district, one of the problems that we're struggling with right now is probably a problem that you do not have here, and that's infrastructure. We're having a hard time sustaining those iPads and those Chromebooks because of the infrastructure in some of our buildings. We have some older buildings, and those buildings were never designed to have 700 children sitting in a building with Chromebooks or iPads on. So we have sort of a little different dynamic going on for us. But what we have done is we've done what we could. We've added Chromebooks, we've added iPads, we've enhanced our computer labs, we've brought in mobile cards, we've done all the things that we can to ensure success. 4 years ago, we did not have wireless connectivity, period, not a single school. I'm now proud to tell you that every school in my district has wireless connectivity. How did we do that? Some grant money, a little bit of begging, some nice benefactors who stepped in and offered sizable amounts of money and embraced us. But we found a way to get wireless connectivity for all of our schools.
Or, excuse me, are most of your schools broadband? I mean, I understand in the Black Belt it's still a challenge to get broadband.
Yes. Let me thank you for asking that, because I really wanted to share this rather unique story. In Monroe County, we have a school, Monroe Intermediate School, which is a school across the Alabama River. So I'm in Monroe County, and I travel through 2 counties to get to my little school across the Alabama River. I go through Wilcox and Clark to get back into Monroe County to go to my little school across the river. Now, when the ferry was working, I could take my car onto the ferry and I could save some 20 minutes or so by taking ferry. Unfortunately, our ferry has been down, and so it takes me about an hour and 10 minutes to get to my little school across the Alabama River. Precious school. Whenever we hold board meetings, and every other board meeting we go out to a school, and the other board meetings are held in the central office. Whenever we go out to that little school, they're always going to feed us sweet potato pies and turnip greens and cornbread. Just a precious school. But we have some real problems trying to keep our internet connectivity. There are only 61 children in that school. Cost us 3 times the amount of money to educate children in that little school than it does in any other school in Monroe County. But they're precious children and they belong to us, and you find a way. Again, you find a way. Our biggest challenge in terms of the broadband and keeping connectivity up tends to be that little school across the river. You get ready to do state testing, the kids get in there, they get started, and down it goes. Child gets frustrated, you finally get it up again, they get started, and it may go down again. But those are the things you deal with. Those are the realities of their life, or our life. And yet again, you know, those are things that are challenges. They're different challenges, very different challenges than you have here. But nevertheless, challenges are challenges, and leadership's leadership. You still work to find the ways. So I'm not sure if I answered your question. I was just looking for an opportunity to share about my little school across the river too, because it's such a such a unique and precious little place.
G's Bend?
It's actually Packard's Bend.
Okay.
Packard's Bend.
You can get a good quilt there also.
Yeah, you can. At G's Bend,
G's Bend.
yes.
Mr. Kelly,
I think, my question just got answered, so.
which was number,
Which one was it, Earl? I can't keep on. Technology.
okay,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Dr. Murphy, you made, again, several, I like saying that.
Dr. Murphy.
Doctor, I'm talking to myself as well.
Don't know if you can.
We talked about data and making sure we have internal indicators as well for student success. But tied to the compensation piece, I'm talking about number 5, would you agree upon stretch goals to define exceptional performance?
Yes, and a couple of thoughts I'd share with that. First of all, I would say to you that I'm exceptionally focused. I'm very internally driven. I'm very passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about children, their success, the success of our schools, the success of our school districts. I realize that there are people who are motivated by, sometimes more by the carrot or the stick. I'm not motivated by either. I'm just driven. And so regardless of how you might set that compensation package up, I would say to you with all honesty that setting aside part of that compensation package based on those stretch goals will not motivate me any more nor any less, because when I'm in, I'm all in. Now, what I do think is critical about that process is this. By having those stretch goals, you clearly define for yourselves and for me what you believe exceptional leadership looks like. And then there's no misgivings on anybody's part. What is a stretch goal? What does exceptional leadership on the part of our superintendent look like? And from the genesis of the relationship, that's well defined. And so from that end, I like that. The only concern I would have is when schools are successful and school districts are successful, it just is not about one person. And I wouldn't want anything that you do as it would relate to a compensation package to create any ill will whatsoever between the superintendent and other people who are working very hard every day in the trenches. And I say trenches with all due respect because that's where the children are. That's where the trenches are. So that's a compliment when I say that. So my only concern would be just simply not creating any ill will from others who feel like, the superintendent's stretch goals sounded good, looked good, it was achieved, but guess who helped achieve that? And that causes me just an ounce of heartburn, and so I would want to be reflective about that.
Good point.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Murphy, you had mentioned about the uniqueness of one of your middle schools and how with the low number of students at that school, it cost, I think you said, 3 times more to
Yes, sir.
educate in that school than it does your other schools. Can you give us some more examples of how you were personally involved in leading the process and to develop and successfully implement a school budget?
Lots of experience. I have had the privilege of teaching at the college level for 5 years at 2 different colleges. At one of those colleges, I was the chair of the department and the athletic director, and both of those came with budgets and planning and accountability. So I've had that opportunity at that level, and in addition to that, at the college level, I wrote some grants, and again, those grants come with the budget side and the accountability side to writing grants. So at the college level, both as a department chair, as an athletic director, and also as a grant writer and the accountability that comes with the grant writing process with budgets. I've also had the opportunity to be a middle school principal for 9 years. All 9 of those years we had budgets that we had to meet and balance and be accountable for. I've been a principal for 7 years at the high school level at 2 different high schools, and again, that budget process and the accountability and the planning and being savvy with taxpayers' money and using money wisely. And so now as a superintendent for 4 years, I've had the opportunity to have my hands all over the budget and to understand that process, and have a fabulous CSFO who works to support me in that process. And that's a critical relationship, by the way. The relationship that exists between your superintendent and CSFO, that's an intimate relationship of work that has to occur there. So I've had experience from middle school, high school, to superintendency, and also some budget opportunities at the college level.
Much as I asked with the number of students, any heartburn going from your current budget to a budget that we have here?
Yeah, so the differential, just so that we are transparent, put it on the table, is my current budget's somewhere around $34 million, and your budget's around $167 million. And so that's substantial. I don't. I mentioned to you that there's some challenges here. There's some transition that would take place on anyone's part moving to a Hoover, for that matter. But no, sir, Mr. Presley, I don't have any particular issues or concerns that that substantial budget difference exists there for us. And again, I offered my simpleton thought, and that is we're going to meet our obligations, and we're going to align our budgets to our strategic plan. And whether that's a $34 million budget or a $167 million budget, we're going to drive our work based on the strategies and the objectives from our strategic plan and that of the board's wishes and the community's wishes.
Thank you.
It has been said by you, and it's a great statement, that's why I'm going to say it. Students don't know how much we care, or how much we know, until they know how much we care.
Yeah.
And clearly, one way they know that you as the superintendent cares is that you are out there as the advocate for them and the school district. So with that in mind, what are some ways you'll be a visible figure within the community for students and parents alike to see your involvement and participation in the community, and not just sit around the office like I don't think that's going to be what you would do?
Absolutely. Well, being a superintendent, I realize how easy that is to happen. You go by the office and your intent is to be there for a little bit, and then you're going to get right out in the schools, and you look up and 3 o'clock's there and you didn't get out in that school. I think you have to be intentional about that. I think you've got to make it a priority, you've got to make it an objective, and you've got to get out there and be visible. First of all, it's the most exciting thing that I do. Budget's a little dull. Getting out with students is exciting. I love to be where they are. Whether it's the school play, whether it's the band, whether it's the football program, whatever they're interested in, I'm interested in. And whatever I can be at and I can attend, I'm going to be right there with them. So I am a visible superintendent. I am at their productions and their games, and I support them. I would love to have time with the SGAs and spend time with them and the leadership, student leadership groups in our schools. Wherever our students are, I want to be there. I am very visible in my school district. I would continue to be a very visible school superintendent.
I noticed here in your write-up that on your major career accomplishments, as Stephen alluded to, the budget is certainly much bigger, as is the district, as is everything relative
Yes.
to where you are currently.
I feel like I'm in Texas.
Yeah, well, it's not quite that flat, but the other thing is you have a lot of hands-on things. You said updating board policy,
Yes.
wrote job descriptions on essential functions, grant writing, and several different things. What will happen here is we have we have a large number of competent people who do a lot of things will allow you to be free to move about the country, if you will.
I have only one word: hallelujah.
But careful what you have. No, it's good.
But that is exciting. I think what you do is you employ very competent people, you empower them, you trust them, and you let them get their work done. And when you don't have to put your hands as regularly on those kinds of pieces of the work, then you can get out there and be visible, available, and accessible to teachers, principals, students, parents, the whole group.
And that's important to us.
Absolutely. I think if I could just almost kind of re-emphasize that, it is so critically important that my role is that of a support system, the cheerleader, support the resources, and that we turn the people loose who are doing the work currently to allow them to continue that process and do the excellent work they do.
Dr. Murphy, that concludes our questions for this evening. Take a breath. Excellent job.
Thank you.
Excellent job.
Great board, thank you. I've really enjoyed the conversations that we've had tonight, and this has been a fabulous professional opportunity for me to have this conversation with you. Thank you very much.
One last question for you, and that is, do you have any questions for the board at this time?
Well, just simply would say to you that when you come to an interview like this, you want you all to have a feel for who I am, and me to have the privilege to have a feel for who you are and what your expectations are. You know, there are some obvious things that I know that you're looking for in your superintendent. You're looking for someone who has integrity and honesty and forthrightness, I guess, and all those sorts of things. But just one question, and that is if I might get you all to share with me what is the most critical trait or characteristic, or maybe there's not just one, but can you share with me what you're looking for in the superintendent so that I can hear that conversation, so I see if that aligns with, you know, basically who I am and my skill set for that matter.
Excellence. And we're not going to settle. So that's the most important thing to me in this school district. You have you've got the staff to get the job done. We just need someone to lead.
Very good. Very good.
I echo Ms. Fraser, but also we have a very diverse city system. And we rely on the same venues to get the message out about the entire state school system. So PRS, I love to hear you echo about communication in different venues that you navigate through, and also the importance of interacting, not just with John Doe down the street, but also the mayor and our council, the president as well. So those components are truly important. We got a great staff, and again, we've got a fantastic leader.
Piggyback on both of these comments and add one. The ability to be able to walk through a school and walk through one of our elementary schools and have one of our students come up and hug your neck, but at the same time be able to make the decisions that are tough and not easy and not popular.
One simple characteristic, leaps tall buildings in single bound. And seriously, here we have a lot of great things, as you've alluded to, and kind of done in your research, really teed up. A lot of great things going on, but there's some other things that are teed up, and the leadership piece, and somebody who can take that and knock it out of the park is what we're looking for.
I'm just going to use one word, visionary. Could sum up a lot of what you've said, obviously, here tonight, but the fact that you could be a visionary, which a lot of responsibilities comes with that. Here's the other thing. You said, we do a lot of great things. We're not doing a lot of good things. We're totally not great. But if I'm in your position and look at this job, this is a phenomenal opportunity. The people, the resources, the facilities, you name it, it's all here. I mean, it's all here. You talk about personal development, it's all here, ready to go.
Excellent. Well, thank you again. The privilege is mine to be one of your finalists. I am honored to be a finalist, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Murphy.
you.
We even put lace on our invitations.
How about that?
At this time, if I can ask the audience just to stay put for just a second. Jason, are you in here?
Yes.
Okay. If you will, if you and Connor would like to excuse yourself, we've got a little bit of housekeeping to take care of. You've got a little bit of a break, which means you can get something to eat in here, okay? Connor, if you want to join your mom? Yes.
Good night, Chip.
At this time, tonight concludes 4 nights of interviews, and I see a lot of people that have been here every single night, 3 of the 4 nights, and thank you very much. I appreciate you being here, your patience. We have been blessed with 4 really, really good candidates, in my opinion, and now becomes the task of these 5 board members to make a decision who we plan to hire for this important position. I've been in touch with Dr. Behrens several times over the weekend. Dr. Behrens is our search, the head of our search firm, and she has given me some guidance and direction. So basically, this is not my idea, this is coming from our superintendent search. Gentlemen, at this time, if we can, there are 4 candidates, and there are 4 of you. And since my time on the board will end at the end of May, we're about 5 weeks away, and the 4 of you, along with the new board member, will be the ones that will be working with the new superintendent. I'm going to make it very elementary for you. I have put the 4 candidates' names. I need for you, and don't tell me who you've drawn yet. If you'll just draw one, pass them down, please, Derek. I guess the first question I need to ask, are you all available for a meeting here at the central office at 7 o'clock on Thursday evening? Basically, what I'm asking you to do is, there's a lot of references in each one of these packets that was given to us early on. You will have tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. If you will get in touch with all of the references, whichever one you've chosen, if you will research that and then be prepared if you can meet, and I know you are hearing this for the very first time. I'm out of town all day Thursday and all day Wednesday, so that's the reason I'm asking. I know typically we have our meetings at 5:30, but Mr. Presley is working in Nashville on a temporary assignment right now, and again, I'm going to be out of town. So if we can meet at 7 o'clock Thursday night, we're trying to stay on our timeline that AASB gave us in the very beginning. So you have 3 days to basically research the candidate that you've just chosen. We will come back on Thursday night, and I would ask you to stay very positive with your comments. We are going to, this will be a public meeting. Keep in mind that all but one of these candidates, they are involved in other searches, and we would not, as a Hoover School Board, want to say anything if we decide not to hire he or she. We would not want to do anything to cause any problems for this candidate if they choose to take one of the other jobs. So first off, Thursday night at 7 o'clock, yes or no?
I'm good.
Mr. Presley?
I'm good. Good.
Okay, good. Making progress here. Okay,
What if we don't like the movie guy?
it's too bad. Okay?
Who is Arnie Duncan?
The other thing I'm going to ask you to do on Thursday night, if you will come and be prepared to give me your top 2 candidates to this point. Obviously, if something comes up during your research, if it's something negative, let me just say this. I talked to Dr. Behrens about this. Again, we don't want to say anything negative, but if you discover something negative when you talk with the various resources, if you will please let me know ahead of time. That's all I ask. And obviously I will get with Mr. Sweeney and we will, our board attorney, to see how we will handle that. I'd like for you to have 2 candidates If we are in agreement on those two candidates, we may be prepared to move forward. If we are not, and we want to bring those two candidates back, we can do that. Again, we won't know until we come in on Thursday night where we're at, okay? Just so I know, Mr. Kelly, who did you draw?
Dr. Wilson?
Mr. Cooper?
Dr. Murphy.
Mr. Presley?
Dr. Marzak.
So you have Mr. Ledbetter,
Yes, madam.
okay? Okay, any questions?
Yes, being that we possibly may choose a superintendent on Thursday, possibly, will the candidates be notified that we're planning to do that? Because I know they are in other searches as well, so I don't know.
This is what I'd like to do. Is Brian still in here? Okay, Brian, is it a possibility, if the board comes to this board table on Thursday night, and the five of us all have our first choice as the same candidate, would it be possible, I know the board president has to make that phone call to that superintendent to see if they are interested in accepting the position. Can that be done publicly on a phone here in this room so that the board members and the audience can hear that? And that's just something I want to do. If it's not possible, then tell me so.
Yes, it's possible.
I'd like to do that night, if we get that far, okay? The only thing that Dr. Barron's indicated is that before we contact the superintendent possibility, we have to, obviously it's gonna be, she's recommended a 3-year contract, nothing less than a 3-year contract, okay? And then a salary. The details of the contract do not have to be worked out, but if we are offering them a position, we have to be able to offer them a salary also. Again, the contract negotiations can take place the following week. So that's the only thing that we have to tell them is a salary. Again, we'll discuss that publicly Thursday night.
Are you gonna stream this thing Thursday night? If, for example, she's sitting down in Greenville, she can certainly watch and sit there and,
It's not necessary.
well, it's not necessary, but it's pretty helpful to her in Georgia.
Audience, what do you think?
Has this been, this whole process has been, Madam President, apologize, this whole process has been beneficial through, via soup sites we utilize. So I think that's going to be a major decision. I'll be a component of that as well.
The interviews, the candidates knew that those interviews would be live streamed. Our board meetings are not, and this will be a called board meeting. So basically, if you want to set that precedent, that you're going to start live streaming, maybe this is the time you guys want to do that. It's up to y'all.
I'd like to make a motion, we consider that another time, Madam President.
Okay? Any other questions? I know you're hearing this for the first time.
Are we gonna
so-
stream it or not, is the question. I don't see the difference in what we've done for the last 4 nights. If I'm the first person out of the block, or if I'm Kathy Murphy, I've seen what 3 other people have to say. And we're worried about what people are gonna say or think Thursday night when they're watching this.
As long as we know for a fact, this is the only concern that I have, again, 3 of these 4 are in other searches. Something that we might say, even though we may think it's a positive thing, may not come across necessarily positive. I don't want to cause any problems, and Dr. Barron stressed that. I can ask her, I'm happy to do that, and I guess, Brian, I could probably get back with you on that. Do you all have a preference one way or the other, while we're talking openly here? Should we live stream the meeting Thursday night? Raise your hand if you think so.
That does.
Just a couple of you. Okay, I'm gonna say no at this time, and, just because of,
My concern was going forward in meetings, not coming up. Talking about policy for next year.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I totally misunderstood.
I'm sorry.
Let me talk to Dr. Behrens about that if I could, because again, what we may think is a very positive may come off negative to someone else.
Yeah, and for the record, obviously, I'm not trying to hide it, we're gonna be an open meeting. I was talking more
Exactly.
about policy for after you depart.
And I probably would like to discuss it with Mr. Sweeney before we make that final call. Is that okay?
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
that fair enough?
Let me make the one statement, and I concur with that, because I don't want to create, a lot of times we have streaming issues, public participation may die down, because folks don't want to do video, so I want to make sure we create a more intimate environment, but I don't take this Thursday as a regular board meeting setting, but really just geared towards,
Okay.
picking the candidate, but I do understand from your perspective, anything negative, or as you said, how would it affect them long-term?
Let me just ask Mr. Sweeney, and we'll go by whatever he says. Is that okay? Is that fair enough? Because I really need for him to be here Thursday night also.
Keep in mind, other than the fact that the technological difference is no difference in what John Anderson would hear and write than
Okay.
it would be for
It's
Joe
also-
Schmidt and
Okay.
watching on
Do
TV.
you feel the need that we inform the 4 candidates that we're going to be discussing them openly? You know, we haven't done that in this live streaming, you know,
No.
I mean, should I, or I would think if we're gonna do this, that we do need to inform the
Let's
4
just talk,
candidates.
okay, let's talk a little more about the ground rules. This discussion of candidates is something that just popped up here. I had written down here, we're gonna research those people that they put on their application. Now, the chances of those people that put on their application say something negative are pretty slim. That's okay. We're gonna come here with our top 2 candidates, and then what? We're gonna just kind of
If,
confess, like, is it like Indian poker? I don't know.
no, basically, if all 5 of us are on the same page with number 1,
Oh, you want to prioritize?
that'd probably be a good idea. Why don't you give me number 1 and number 2? Good point. Let's do that. If all 5 of us come up to the table on Thursday night and everybody's got number 1, chances are real good it's probably time to make an offer to someone. If we are all over the board, then basically that's what I'm asking, do we want to bring the top 2 candidates back?
Yeah, I don't think it's helpful to get in a bunch of random, unstructured discussion about it.
Okay? Basically, you're just stating that your candidate would be a good fit for Hoover City Schools for the following reasons.
That's right.
But here's the other question, I mean, I hate to be devil's advocate. Let's say the top candidate gets 3 out of the 5 votes. Well, you really haven't got a board consensus necessarily, unless people say, well, okay. That's the other thing.
Well, okay, then,
You kind of have everybody else.
I've got all the answer to this. Just give me-
Good.
Okay. If we have to discuss good name and character, we will be required to go into executive session on Thursday night. That is the reason I need Mr. Sweeney here. He will determine if we need to go into executive session or not. Okay? Basically, if we're at a 3-2, our first choice are 3-2, obviously, majority rules. But does this new superintendent, he or she, really want to come into this school district with a 3-2 vote? I wouldn't think so. That's just my thought personally. Any other questions? Yes, sir, Mr. Wilson.
I just wanted to know, how many of the board members have a first choice right now? I mean, in your mind, you know, you've decided who you would like to have as a superintendent.
I had a first or second choice coming into tonight.
Okay.
but that's
Mr. Murphy,
subject
do
to
you have a
change.
first and second choice?
I generally like to vet one more time before.
But I mean, could you have an idea right now? I mean, I know we need to vet some more, but,
I don't think that's a fair question.
Yeah,
because
okay.
Somebody would misinterpret that as, oh golly, I may be the odd person out, so I'm gonna just pull out this one and fill all emphasis
He
somewhere
may be
else.
asking for first impressions, and everybody has a first impression.
Well, you know, Dr. Behrens had said, well, you might just have somebody you all agree on, right? And, you know, that's the end of it. You can go ahead and, you know.
But we also run the risk of coming in here and there not being a single candidate that this board's interested in. So that's the reason the next 3 days are crucial for these guys to do what they have to do, to find as much information as they can on these candidates. Mr. Sweeney hopefully will be available Thursday night to guide us every step of the way. And one thing that Dr. Behrens did indicate is that this is a hard meeting. It's a very hard meeting because it's public. You've got to talk openly, honestly, but you are talking about people who are involved in other searches, and you have to be so careful not to do anything to jeopardize the other search. There's only one candidate that is not involved in another search right now. So obviously, the other three are looking, and Hoover is one of their interests.
See, that's one approach. If you flip it around, the more you talk up somebody, chat them up, the better they're gonna look at someone else. So, that sort of cuts both ways.
We might just live stream it then.
And last time I checked, I'm a board member for the Hoover City Schools, not for anybody else's search.
I understand. But we're nice people, and we don't want to cause any problems for anybody out there that has applied for this position, do we, Mr. Presley? That's all I'm saying. Okay. Anything else from anybody in the audience? If not, we will take about a 15 or 20-minute break, and then there'll be a meet and greet upstairs in the tech room at 7:40. That's all we got for tonight.